Okay, so it's Tuesday, June 1st, and we're starting our buffing I said I was going to do. Now, I've already done the silver on this, and like I said, all I want to do is the silver, and there is one spot of the black on the other side that's got some trash in the paint. If you remember back when I shot the cab, if you watched it, that my sweatpants touched it right there. I'm going to wet sand and buff that too, but I just want to show you the difference. I've already done the driver's side bed part of it, and big difference. All I did was I went over it with 1500 grit with a sponge block. I went over with 1500. If I can get this undone, I used a soft block. I went over with 1500 and followed up with 3000 and sprayed it off. Of course, you wash the truck really good first before you do buffing, and then I used Crystal. Get off of the buffing wheel. She's trying. This dog eats everything. It's driving me nuts. And I used a lamb's wool. Maybe not lamb's wool, but it's a wool pad for the first step. I used micro finishing glaze, and it looked really good just after that. Then I went back over it with Finesse It 2. Only have like that much of it left in there, so another reason not to do the whole truck. And plus the black shot out so smooth. There's a little bit, some dirt and some hairs in it here and there, but that's something you can get rid of a little bit at a time, one little spot at a time. See, like something like that. And out in the sun, that's kind of hard to see. And I'm not trying to do a show finish for sure, but anyway, I've done all I said to the bed panel, and there, hopefully you can see the difference between this, which I haven't even sanded yet, of course, and that. So it turned out better than I thought it would, really. I wasn't sure if I sanded it good enough, but it turned out good. And I haven't even given it a coat of wax yet. And the plan is to do this, and I didn't know if I was going to have to do this, because these two flowed out pretty good, the fenders on both sides. This and this on both sides was before I realized I had the wrong tip in my gun when I sprayed the clear. This was after, and it looks like this matches that pretty darn good. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to smooth down my tape line and maybe hand rub it out there. But that's basically all I'm going to do is this, both sides, and this part on the opposite side where I got the big piece of dirt in. And little places here and there I can fix later. And who's to say I won't end up buffing the whole truck a little here and a little there. I just want it to look good enough to be proud of. Like I said, it doesn't have to be show truck. It's not going to be. It's going to be used, but I'm not going to abuse it. But that's the plan. I'll show you the steps that I did on the bed on this little area here. And after that, I will have to wash it all down really good. I'll use Dawn dish soap, nothing with a carnauba wax in it yet, because before I give it a coat of wax, hand waxing, I want to do my tape striping. And of course, as you can see, since I painted this two-tone disassembled, I'm going to have to use my tape striping to cover up the offset, and I think it'll work out just fine. So we'll start with the sanding first. We'll start off with 1500. Show what that looks like. Basically, I try to stay off the corners, but since I do have a pretty heavy tape line here, a ridge, I'm just going to smooth that down. Don't put a lot of pressure on it, just till it don't have to be completely gone, because like I said, tape is going over top of it. So I get rid of that first. And if you're being really careful and you don't feel like you're cutting it, just get a little braver as you go. Push a little harder if you're not getting the results you want. Just don't cut through it. And remember, right here on this line, tape is going over top of it, tape striping itself. And you can really feel how rough this clear coat is. I mean, you can probably hear it on the camera. I won't know till I edit the video, so. Pick one area at a time, and when it's really rough like this, you'll feel it get smoother. And you just keep doing that. And what I'll do is, after I feel like I'm done with the 1500, I'll spray it off, dry it, and you'll be able to see how much of the orange peel you got out of your clear coat. Okay, so I followed up with the 3000 grit, and there's basically what it looks like before buffing. Now you can see some little shiny specks in there. That's where I didn't get all of the orange peel out. Like I said, that's okay. This here does have some orange peel right here, and I want it to kind of match since I'm not doing all of it. And so we're going to hit it with the, not the Finesse It 2, but always keep these separate so I don't accidentally grab the wrong bottle in the middle of redressing my wheel. So I'm going to hit it with that, and I'll let you see it come back to life. It'll look pretty good with just the first stage, and honestly that's supposed to make it a little bit slicker, but I don't see much difference. And after that it will get washed and waxed, and I did the corners. I know you're not supposed to hit a corner with a buffer, but I can lightly hit it because I wanted to get that tape line down smooth before I put my striping tape over top of it. And if you haven't done buffing before, I would not recommend hitting these corners, but if you have, you'll learn that you can be really gentle and get, like, see sand scratches here where I kind of rubbed up a little higher than the line I was sanding. And yeah, and once you get experience with the buffing wheel, you know how much pressure to apply and what you can get away with and what you can't. Trick is to don't try to overdo it. I'd rather it not quite be good enough than to go too far and burn through the paint, if you know what I mean. Because anything that you don't get with the buffing wheel, you can always come back and hand rub out. And anything you can hand rub out will be so insignificant, a lot of people probably won't notice it, and you can just do that a little bit at a time at your convenience. So let's watch this panel here come back to life here. And I always use two different wheels for each stage of buffing compound. And I'm using the lamb's wool. A lot of people recommend lamb's wool for roughing, and then the sponge for finish, or it might be the backwards, I don't know. Honestly, I like lamb's wool on both. I wish I had another lamb's wool, but I always switch wheels so I don't have the rougher compound on my finishing wheel here. And this wheel is already a little damp. It don't hurt to have a little bit of water on your wheel. And to apply it, before I hit the buffer, I kind of rub it all over here. Rub all the places you're going to buff. And when you hit it, you're going to throw it everywhere. Always, before I even start buffing, I try to spray it on the area I'm going to buff. That way, less of it is going up into your ceiling, on the walls, and all over everything else. This is a messy job to do, and it's best to do it outside if you can. One thing I forgot, you don't want to breathe this stuff. It's probably not as bad as paint, but it is pretty hard on you. put your dust mask on, something to protect you, dust mask or respirator. I like these little Miller, they're actually welding masks for to keep you from breathing grinding dust and welding smoke. Works pretty good. Not exactly a paint respirator, but works pretty good for this. Basically what I'm doing, it still looks hazy, but I still have compound. You want to kind of keep buffing the compound in until it starts to dry, and then it'll come off kind of like you drying wax off with a hand rag. As you can see, as it dries, it's starting to get really, really shiny. You see, that is not an actual buffing mark. That is still compound that hasn't come off. Alright, and that's just first stage right there. Let me wipe some residue off and I'll show you what it looks like. Like I said, that's before the final stage. The final stage, we'll make it look even a little better. Find my t-shirt here. Use a nice soft rag. This is just no t-shirt. It's cotton. It'll work. And there it is. Actually, honestly, it looks good enough to just put a hand wax on, but I'll hit it with the second stage just for good measure. And there you go. That's looking so much better. And honestly, it's a little smoother than I had planned on it being, but because like I said, I wanted to match the parts that I'm not buffing. And who knows? I just want to get it looking good enough to where people will say, won't say, hey, you shot that dry. That's what I'm trying to get rid of. Because the rest of it looks good enough. Unless you're a professional body man that does show cars and stuff, you're not going to notice a little bit of orange peel. And I can always come back when there's time and do one door or one part at a time and really make it look nice. Now when I start getting the other cars out and toying with them, don't know how much time I'll have. And I can also, all these little specks of dirt in the paint, I can wet sand them out later a little bit of time. I mean, you can do just one little area at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to these corners here that I smoothed down. Then I'll go back over it with the finishing stuff. And that'll be all there is to cover for the buffing. Really, that's all I know about it. And I don't know everything there is to know about it, that's for sure, because I'm just a hobbyist and not a professional body guy. but I know enough to please myself and drive a truck and get a truck looking good enough for my taste. So, alright, I'm going to shut up and finish up here and show you what it looks like when it's all washed up. Okay, so there's one side, and I buffed what I said I was going to buff. And actually, even though I didn't sand this, I did kind of go over it. You can see my orange peel from where I did not buff it there. And actually, what I buffed is a little smoother. I was wanting it to kind of match. And like I said, the reason I'm not buffing this because it's good and glossy and it's sprayed on good. And I can always go back and do that later. But I just wanted to get the worst of it buffed out. But you can see a difference. It looks a lot better. Especially since this was shot so dry. See it out in the sunlight there. Sunlight even hides more imperfections. Fluorescent lights show it. But yeah, that's going to look good enough for me once I get it all washed off better and get the tape stripe on it so I can line up the separation of the two-tone. As you can see, like I said before, it's off right there, but that tape stripe will cover that up and we'll get that as lined up the best we can. But anyway, here's a comparison of this side to the side I have done nothing to yet. Of course, focus on the bed and the cab, not the rest of it. See how much drier that is. But we're going to get this side looking just like the other side, and it's going to be nice. I'm going to like it. Won't be perfect. Not a show truck, but I am going to like it. So I'm going to get that done, and then I'm going to wash it all back down with Dawn dish soap. And I'm going to get my pressure washer out and get this bed liner sprayed out. It's still got a lot of stain in it from where I wet sanded. And hopefully my pressure washer won't blast my spray-on bed liner off. It shouldn't. I won't go with a very aggressive spraying tip. And we'll have to let it dry. Okay, it's several days later. It's June 6th now, Saturday. And I finished the buffing and got it washed off, of course, and it's done dried. And a few spots that I missed. Right there, it looks like I didn't get low enough with the buffer. I'm going to go ahead and finish putting the stripes on this side. And if you're wondering how my tape striping got in this shape, it has something to do with a husky puppy. I was cutting grass and I seen her out there chewing on something. I was like, it's probably not worth investigating until I was mowing that field out there. Then I made around close to the fence and realized that my whole row of tape striping, which is in here somewhere, so maybe it isn't, but anyway, the whole row, here it is right here. Here's what's left of it. Whole row was scattered all the way across the yard from the corner of the shed to the house. But actually she didn't. Even though she tangled it all up, this is part of that tangled mess. It didn't really hurt it. Now the striping, I wasn't sure if I liked it last night or not. If you look at it from certain angles, depends on how the light gets it, it appears to be red, which is what I was wanting. And if you look at it with the white backing paper on it, it appears red to me. There's a red car behind it. It's not quite as a deep river red. That car's dirty, by the way. But underneath the lights last night, it almost looked amber or maybe even a little pink. And I don't want pink. But I'm going to go ahead and run with it and see. It looks like if you pull it out in the sunlight, it appears to be red. A little brighter on this side. But it's, I don't know, it looks pretty good. And like I told you, when I taped off the two-tone, the truck was disassembled, and really that's not the way to do a two-tone. If I ever do another two-tone again, even though it's more taping, I will assemble it all just to get my lines good and straight. As you can see, I got a little bit of silver bleeding through right there. It's not that conspicuous. I may get some black touch-up paint and fix all those little things. It's not going to be perfect, but I will try to fix some little mistakes, a little here and a little there. Main goal is to get this thing back on the road. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of filming of putting the tape stripes here. As you can see, I completely missed some sand scratches here. So I'm going to, after I get the tape on it, I'm going to try to hand rub all that out. Some people never even get the buffer out. Some people don't like using a buffer. They like to hand rub an entire paint job out, which is a lot of work and time, but I've seen some people do some really nice job of doing that. Okay, so the door, the silver on the door seems to be lower than everything else. So that is going to be my starting point, putting the tape stripe on this side. Everything else looks like it's about the same. As you can see, the fender, the silver on the fender is a little higher here, and the cab about the same height, and it looks like it lines up pretty good here. So we're going to do the door first. And I have a piece cut out. And here is my piece that I have cut out. I want the thicker stripe on top. And what I did, I cut a piece longer than the door, and I want to, when I put it on, I'm going to, first I'm going to overlap. I'm going to go across the door and onto the next panel on both ends. And that way I'll have it about where I want it on the door and here. And then as far as the rest of them go, I'll come off the door and apply the tape to line up with this door. If that makes any sense. So now that white is not part of the tape stripe. And sometimes it's hard to get the backing off. Okay, so finally got this piece of this backing separated from the tape. I'm going to take it all off. Sorry the camera isn't back farther, it's just that there's no more room in the garage. The camera's almost against the wall. Now the thing is, you got to remember where that white was, you got clear, and I want silver to be showing through the clear. So, and got my tape kind of stuck together here. Luckily it is a part that I will be throwing away. So I'm taking, the red is going to be just flush with the top of the silver on the fender, and it still covers the door. And this looks like it's going to work out the same right here. There we go. It's close, but it'll work because I want the silver to come through this clear here, not the black. And I needed to do it to all fenders. And that's why I picked this door to do first, because like I said, the silver is the lowest on this door because some amateur taped it off and painted it. If you watch my past videos, you see who that is. I'll call him the guy in the mirror. But there it is. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to cut it about here and over here. And then I'll open the door and wrap it around there just like that. Now that I've cut that, I just kind of pushed it in there, and there we go. Get that out of there. I'll do the same thing over here. Take care of that. That is kind of hard to get to there. I have to get on this side of the door. My butt's going to be in the camera. And I just stuck that to the other side. You can't see it, but you can't see what I just did. I just kind of wrapped the tape around the edge of the door. And there's that. Looks fairly straight. So I'm going to do the rest of the truck all the way across and on the bottom. That'll be all the tape striping. Okay, so stripes are on both sides now. Got my fender well trim on it. And I don't know if I covered this in past videos, but these are orders from Jeff's Bronco or Bronco Graveyard. One or the other. I think there's a Jeff's Bronco too. But all the trim pieces look good except for this one, and it's kind of my fault because I didn't open the package till like a couple months after I got it, and it was damaged bad right here. And thanks to that guy on Cold War Motors, watching his videos, he does a lot of trim repair on his 1960 Plymouth Fury, and those videos really interested me because trim is expensive and sometimes you can't find it. And I use this cheap piece here as a test. And if you remember, I did do a video on this piece here, which turned out okay. But this piece was creamed bad. I mean, it was just beat way up in there. And I just want to say that guy's videos helped me a lot on that. I didn't really complete it. I didn't think this cheap stuff would be clear coated. You can see where I kind of tried to blend it in with really fine sandpaper. But at least it looks a lot better than it did, and I may, while it's on the truck, and that's the easiest way to hold it, I may give me some really fine sandpaper and get the rest of the clear off, and then polish it so that it all match. And I'm still wondering if a guy can't fix a spot, feather edge the clear coat off with some really fine sandpaper, like 600 or even up to 1500, and then spray it with clear. I want to try an old piece like that and see if a guy can fix one spot and not have to strip all the clear off of it. But I think I'm going to end this video